we have worked on these lakes for 5 years now. This is November 2024, and we've really learned a lot about the diversity of lakes. There's a real wide range of depths and areas, a wide range of water quality conditions, a wide range of hydrology attributes in terms of flushing. So we cover the whole scope of lakes that you would see all over Alberta. We've got very clear water lakes, we call them oligotrophic lakes, to very green lakes, we call them hypereutrophic lakes. And but we've got that in this tiny little area of about 10 miles by 20 miles. We're standing here today by Gerhardt's Lake, which is one of the most pristine lakes. A Clearwater lake. They're actually termed kettle lakes because they're so deep and they have rapid drop-offs, and they all have good groundwater flow going through them. So across this scope of 78 lakes, there's a unique cluster here, basically north of Hubbell's Lake, north of the Yellowhead, that are extremely clear. And then as we move further west and further south and southwest, then we get a larger variety of lakes.
Have you contributed?
Most of my work's been around looking at the source of water for some of these lakes. So when Dave True first got in touch with me, we were trying to figure out how much groundwater connection some of the lakes could have, because they had a very distinct chemistry or sort of phosphorus pattern to some of them. Some of them were clear, some of them were not. And my role was really to look at, could we sample the lakes and look at indicators, things that would tell us, are they well connected or are they not as well connected? And it really built off some of the earlier work that was done by researchers at the University of Alberta with some of those lakes in the past.
The other thing that is of significance right now is that we're in a very warm and dry period, and the lakes have declined a bit, about a meter and a half from the 1970s, which was the peak levels. So as the lakes decline due to warmer weather and less precipitation, they don't flush as well, and some of them don't flush at all anyways to the watershed. So the more nutrient we allow into these lakes when they're not being flushed, the more likelihood the water quality could deteriorate. We're all very interested in the sources of phosphorus, where it's coming from, and how those various sources compare. So agriculture versus shoreline development, sewage, overland runoff, groundwater, precipitation, they all are sources of phosphorus. And there's one that's particularly unique to Alberta, which is internal loading. There's a lot of phosphorus that gets into these lakes, eventually finds its way into the sediments, and under certain circumstances in late summer it can be re-released. And it has it's like fertilizing your lawn, if you still do that. Has that kind of an effect on the water, and the algae respond very quickly.
I think, yeah, so building on some of the earlier work, we knew some of the lakes, especially in this sort of near Mayatan, so in the sort of southwest area, were connected with groundwater, but we weren't sure what the rate of connection was like. We knew from some other work that the lakes more in the north, sort of northeast side, were also connected and likewise had a particular chemistry. What I guess we learned from the broader lake sampling of many, many lakes was that you could actually start to see this gradation pop up, and that we could detect certain isotopes and a certain geochemical signal in those different lakes. And so lakes towards the north are very well connected, and they seem to flush a lot more readily. So they're receiving, water from the subsurface that's coming into them, and then likely passing it through and heading off into the rest of the aquifer. Whereas some of the ones in the south don't do that as readily. So right away we could see just from the sampling this difference between the different parts of the region. I think the biggest takeaway is that it is a large connected system with lots of pieces. So not to view it lake by lake, but to start to view it more as this continuity of many lakes, almost like the lake district approach, where what happens in one area could be different than another area, and that's okay. It's just understanding that sort of basic footprint of what the whole system is functioning as. So changes in one area may be different in their impact compared to changes.
My family has been involved in this property since the early 60s. I've personally been out here an awful lot over the last 45 years. spending a large part of summers and periods during the fall and winter. It's a special place. It's wild like, yet very close to major urban areas, much of what the County of Parkland has to offer people. Lakes, you quickly learn how unique and special they are. I grew up as a kid spending a lot of time at more typical Alberta lakes, and being exposed to these lakes, you quickly realize you're in a totally different ecosystem. The quality of water, even the vegetation, very, very unique. So you know when you hit these kind of lakes, you've stumbled on something very special. And that's been a big part of spending time here, is either being on the water for a swim or a canoe, or wandering around the immediate area here on the property.
And our experience over the years has evolved. When we first moved out here, there were cattle grazing down by the lakefront, and it was a different lakefront. And over the years, it's evolved into the kind of place where we go out on our canoe and we go out on our floating dock, and the lake bed right where we go out has changed and almost healed since the cattle have not gone down there. And we find that the environment and the lake bed is different each and every year, and the things that we see and do down there are different every year. And we also find that the longer we spend down there, if we go down for 20 minutes, it's very different than if we go down for 4 hours. Because when we're down there silent in time, we find that the creatures come out, and the lake gets quiet when we first arrive, and then it wakes up around us. For me, the greatest benefits are peace and serenity and grounding, but also the opportunity to share in a really fascinating experience and learn, because it's constant. Just when I think I know it all, I don't know anything. So I get to learn as those lessons are presented to me consistently with everything that happens around me, but especially in nature and on the lakes.
Yes. Well, Walter Nielsen and myself, his wife, Myrna, have been out here for 44 years. We bought our property in 1980 and raised our 3 kids here. We came out for the peace and quiet, isolation, the solitude, the nature of the country. And to be honest with you, we didn't really come to appreciate this little lake that's in our front yard, surrounded by an environmental reserve, till the years have passed, and we now see how very, I'd have to say, privileged to live here. It's just wonderful. It's a beautiful place. It really is.
Well, I think living by this lake in this area has affected our quality of life in a very positive way. I always say the things I like about here is the quiet, the privacy, the darkness at night so we can see the whole sky. We live in a very small subdivision, so there's just a few neighbors, and they're all good neighbors. Those have all been very positive things. I worked in the city for a number of years, and I commuted back and forth. It was a long drive, but it was worth it. And now that we're both retired, I appreciate living here even more than I did.
We came to look at this property. I said to Lauren, well, this is it. This is the most perfect property, because there was a heron colony down the lake, and we could tell there were herons, active nests. It was winter, but you could tell that they weren't falling apart. So 27 years, and the herons have been amazing. Walking on the lake in the wintertime, big crystals that have grown out of the surface because of the humidity, just seeing that and walking through them.
Her seeing the heron colonies is what did it. We were very iffy. We had done a lot of stuff with our place in St. Albert. We had been there 20 years. But when she saw the heron colonies, that was it. We're buying it. And we've loved it. Yeah, it's been great.
And the lake, I think, brings in so much. You see you see so many birds that you wouldn't see, the herons, of course, but, all the warblers in the spring, and, this purple finch doing a mating dance on our deck upstairs one spring afternoon. I mean, I never even knew purple finches did that, like it's just really neat, the things that you see. Some of the most important benefits for me have been fitness and being able to be active and be inspired to go outside every day and breathe fresh air and
Sure, my name is Alan Gamble. I'm the mayor of Parkland County, and we have a long history with our family in this area. Our family came to the Mirror Lake area in 1905, and we're involved in agriculture right up to present day. So yeah, the county is the development authority for this municipality, and we work alongside the province, who is responsible for the environmental aspects. And with Parkland County, we're very concerned that we steward and protect our water systems and our wetlands, and that we provide input and require certain studies that ensure the health of our lakes and our water systems and our aquifers, and certain things like sloping and sedimentation that moves into our water system. So it's critical that we play an important role in the protection and the stewardship of our natural water systems. Parkland County is embarking on an update of our municipal development plan as well as our land use bylaws. And part of that process is to ensure that we have within our authorities the ability to protect them with things like setbacks, with education and things on uses of fertilizers.
So I think we have to be very, very conservative in our approach to protecting these lakes through watershed management, meaning very, very, very controlled development, or looking at some of these as preservation sites. And there's other lakes which perhaps are in need of restoration now. So again, we've got a wide range of lake types here. And each lake, there's an old saying in limnology that every lake is unique. Every lake has its own story. And that's true because every lake's got a unique watershed, a unique size of watershed, and unique level of human activity in the watershed, current and historic. Well, it's fundamentally important to understand the importance of managing the land base around each lake, the watershed. And, I think the awareness about that has increased over the last few decades in Alberta.
Well, looking after these lakes, in our situation where they are on private property, has always been something that I've learned from even previous owners involved in the property, and that's good stewardship. We've pretty much always operated on the principles of trying to exclude livestock when they've been on the property from access to water. We try to limit shoreline development to very small areas. And ever since the early 60s, there's been sort of a practice here among the group involved in this property that we don't have motorized boats or motors. So the long-term future of these lakes is a concern of mine, to ensure that I guess the stewardship that's been practiced over the last 60 years continues, and appreciating that none of us are around forever. How does one ensure that's protected? I think the idea of improving people's knowledge about the value of these particular ecosystems and how they can protect them, having that information readily available would be useful, and probably looking to the county for guidance in ways that landowners can find easier ways to ensure it's protected. Appreciating that people with private landowners have opportunities to look at development. But going back to my first observations, it's pretty clear these are special places, and it'd be a real shame to see them lost at this stage, because I don't imagine there are many more of them around.
It's funny, looking after it is almost just leaving it alone, like letting it do its thing and letting nature do its thing. We've heard of or seen other examples of people messing with bodies of water, and they mess it up because they think they're going to make it better, but just leaving it to nature to do its thing seems to be the best way to take care of the lake. Is don't touch it. And hopefully counties or residents or people realize that and do their best to let nature do its thing.
I think that it's important that the municipalities and the government understands the sanctity and the vulnerability and the sensitivity of these bodies of water and protects them. And I think the groups like Lakes of Parkland County are integral in helping to bring that to be.
Yeah, the stewardship of the lakes is a big thing, and I think it's just so important to treasure these little pieces of special environment. You know, I work with Edmonton Area Land Trust and help with the stewardship over there, but it's kind of given me a lot of thought about our lake, and making sure that we're allowing the riparian edge to be strong and vibrant for the wildlife, for the birds and stuff.
I would say that working with Parkland County has been very positive. They have good programs in place, like the Green Acreages program and the Alice program, which helps farmers keep cattle out of lakes. I think that lake stewardship is probably the most important factor in preserving these lakes. The work or the actions of the people that live right by the lakes have the most effect on what happens in the lake and the lake watershed. I've been working on a project with Dave True and yourself for a few years now, and we've gone around to a lot of lakes in Parkland County, and we find that the people who live beside the lakes have a very deep appreciation for the lakes and are super advocates for the lakes and good stewards of the lake, especially on lakes that are totally within private property, because they have a lot more control and they can dictate what happens around the lake.